After starting the season 9-0, BYU fell apart and ended up missing the college football playoff. This year, they look to rebound and they are returning quarterback Jake Retzliff. There are currently some allegations being made against him, but he is innocent until proven guilty and still a member of the football team. So our predictions will be based with him as the starting quarterback. Taking a look at their schedule, Portland State going to be a very easy win to start the year. Same thing with Stanford. They got it at home, and the Cardinal really just not a good team in the ACC. And then after the bye week, an interesting non-conference game to go on the road to East Carolina, but again, it should be a very easy win, setting up BYU at 3-0 into Big 12 play.
To kick off Big 12 play, they have the rematch of the Alamo Bowl last year against Colorado. BYU beat the brakes off of Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter to end their season last year. And now Colorado no longer has Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter, while BYU, like Jonah said, is returning their starting quarterback in Jake Retzliff. He's expected to be one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12 next season, along with maybe being one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. I really think BYU, just with having Retzlaff returning, is going to be enough to get them through some of these first couple Big 12 games with a relatively easy schedule as well.
Yeah, despite Dion being the head coach, very likely that BYU will beat Colorado once again and move to 4-0. Next up is West Virginia, a very interesting team in 2025, losing 50 players to the transfer portal. And they have one of the top transfer portal classes, but how well will those guys mesh, especially early in the season? It's really tough to say. So we are going to predict BYU to beat West Virginia as well, just a significantly better team. And the fact that the Cougars have the home field advantage as well, really don't see them losing this game.
Going on the road to face Arizona the following week should be another relatively easy game. Yes, Arizona is returning their starting quarterback and Noah Fafita, but he is losing his biggest target in Tetero McMillan. If Fafita can rebound after a pretty abysmal season last year, I think he can make this a competitive one if he is able to play to the same level he was at 2 years ago. If he's not able to elevate to that level, I think Arizona is going to be a really easy game for BYU, even on the road. So I think BYU at the end of the day is just going to be the more talented team. They're losing a couple of their wide receivers, whether it was to the NFL draft or to the transfer portal, but they are returning their leading wide receiver from last season, along with their starting running back. Just having a couple key guys offensively to keep them afloat is going to be all they need to get through these first three conference games. Going to start off 6-0.
Yeah, that Arizona game definitely could be interesting, especially like you were just saying on the road. Fafita has the potential to make this a really good game, but without a top weapon emerging yet at wide receiver for Arizona, really just don't see it happening, which is why we are taking BYU here. Now, back at home and in the Holy War against Utah, this is going to be a really good game, I think. The Utes going to be a pretty solid team again this year. Kyle Whittingham has always been a really solid coach, and they brought in Devin Dampier, a transfer quarterback from New Mexico. I think this Utah offense is going to be revitalized. And overall, I think that while this may be a really close game, we're actually going to take the upset this time after Utah came so close to pulling it off last season. They're going to get it done on the road. Give me the Utes to drop BYU to 6-1.
Definitely a bold take for us here, but with the amount of transfers that Utah has coming in, Jonah didn't even mention, but they have Wayshawn Parker coming in from Washington State to be their starting running back after a very productive season last year. He's very, very young and has a lot of potential. So Utah has the weapons. It's just about staying healthy and finally getting it done in this rivalry game. And I think they're out for some revenge after losing last year in controversial fashion. Following week against Iowa State. Iowa State was in the conference championship last season, did end up losing that blowout to Arizona State. They're returning Rocco Becht as their starting quarterback, along with their tight end, who was probably going to be their leading receiver next season with the departure of both wide receivers who led their team to the NFL, both getting drafted by the Houston Texans. I think Iowa State is definitely going to be one of the better teams in the Big 12. I think maybe not as good as Arizona State is going to be next year, but definitely still in the upper echelon of Big 12 teams. I just think with it being a home game for the Cyclones, BYU is going to struggle a little bit, especially coming off of that Holy War loss. I think at the end of the day, Rocco Becht is going to be able to get the job done. Give me the Cyclones.
Yeah, this is again really, really close game here. Home field advantage really going to be a big factor in this one, I think. And the fact that these two teams are so evenly matched, that's probably going to end up making a pretty big difference. So yeah, I think that good chance BYU drops to 6-2 here, heading into their second bye week. And after that, another really tough game playing Texas Tech. The Red Raiders brought in the number two transfer portal class, as well as got completely new football facilities. They have really spent a lot of money on this team. And as we've seen recently, spending a ton of money in NIL can pan out very well. And we think there's a good chance that's going to be the case for this Texas Tech team. They were already bringing back a lot of talent. They are adding even more. They have the home field advantage here. BYU is going to be a good team, but I think kind of similar to what we saw last year, where after starting undefeated, they hit a little slide. That slide is going to continue in similar fashion this year as they drop to 6-3.
Yeah, like Jonah was saying, Texas Tech is going to be a very good team next year. And with a starting quarterback returning in Baron Morton, along with a young running back taking over in Jacoby Williams, sky's the limit for this Texas Tech team. It's just about really executing it. And against BYU, that's going to be an opportunity to get a signature win. Looking to get back in the win column, though, against TCU the following week at home. This is another really tough game. TCU is an interesting team for next season. They have Josh Hoover returning as their starting quarterback after a pretty underrated season statistically. However, he is losing basically his entire wide receiver room to the NFL draft. They do have a couple guys coming in, but you need to build connections with those wide receivers. I think at the end of the day, with Jake Retzlaff returning, plus having weapons returning from that same system, along with having a very, very good defense. The BYU defense was first in the Big 12 in points allowed last season, only allowing 199 points in Big 12 play. And a lot of that defensive production is returning. Most of it was young talent too. So they're now hitting their prime. And if they're able to continue to make that defense a strength for this team, then BYU is going to be able to rebound from that 3 game skid. I think they're going to be able to beat the Horned Frogs at home here to right their season.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance that they could lose this game and fall to 6-4 because TCU is a really solid team, but likely going to bounce back at some point and win at least one out of these 4 games, but really not an easy stretch of four here. It lightens up to end the season, though. A road trip to Cincinnati. The Bearcats are returning Brendan Sorsby at quarterback, and I think have a chance to be a slightly improved team, but still nowhere near the talent level that we have at BYU. So I think that the Cougars should pull off a pretty easy win on the road to move to 8-3.
And to finish out the season, they will play UCF at home. UCF was not a great team last year, and their only bright spot in RJ Harvey is off to the NFL. I do not see this UCF team being very competitive, likely going to be in the bottom 3 in the Big 12 next season. So this is going to be a pretty easy game to finish off the year for BYU and move them to 9-3, hoping to maybe get into the college football playoffs, but it will be interesting to see now with the playoff seeding changing to being straight seeds, with conference champs getting automatic entries but not automatic buys. BYU could have a chance at 9-3. It's really just going to come down to the rest of the league.
Yeah, I think that they'll have a chance, but it'll probably be a pretty small chance given that their schedule really not that tough, especially comparatively with other top teams in the Big 12. I just don't think that 9-3 is going to be enough. 10-2, you could maybe consider it at that point. But most likely, if we do in fact see a 3-loss BYU team, they will not make the college football playoffs. Our way too early projection for the Cougars was 9.05 wins, 2.95 losses, and we predicted them to go 10-2. Obviously, that prediction has dropped to 9-3, as well as the projection just slightly to 8.95 and 3.05, 6.05 wins in the Big 12. Now, their floor is going to be 8-4. We don't really see them doing much worse than, losing one more game than we predicted, and that would most likely be TCU. I think 8-4 is probably going to be a pretty solid floor for this team. Again, assuming that Jake Retzlaff is in fact the starting quarterback. And then the ceiling is going to be 11-1. Nobody in the Big 12 is going to go undefeated this year. I feel pretty confident saying that. However, I do think that BYU is one of the teams that does have the talent to lose only one game. And with a pretty easy schedule, it's honestly pretty feasible as well. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.